Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the Be Unbound podcast. I'm your host, David Rethemeyer, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Abraham Chen. This is episode 67. This is an episode of Unbound Pursuits, where we get to talk with Unbound students and alumni about some of the things that they are doing in their professional lives. And this time, Abe, you got to sit down with a very special group of individuals to us here on the Unbound team, some Ascend team leaders. So tell us a little bit about what we can expect from this conversation.
Yeah, so this is a special edition of Pursuits. Usually we talk with a particular profession, but today we're talking with our team leaders who lead our Ascend teams for all the various years. I won't explain too much. The team leaders themselves do an amazing job of explaining what ATL does and what that means. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Hey guys, so glad that we are all together on this call again, and very excited to kind of chat about being an ATL. So first off, welcome on. We have our Ascend team leaders, Lydia, Rachel, and Jordan. So Lydia, let's start with you. Tell us where you're from and what team you lead.
Yeah, so I live in Virginia. And I lead the awesome Team 5, also known as Team Apocalypse.
All right, Rachel.
Hey, I'm Rachel. I am from Blacksburg, Virginia, so a little bit south of Lydia. I lead Team 3, which is Team Real Phantom. Shout out to you guys.
And Jordan?
Hey guys, I am Jordan. I live in Roanoke, Illinois. It's in the middle of the state. I am the leader of Team 2, and I can't remember our team name right now, so...
Hey, the truth comes out, and hopefully we'll have a lot of that on this show today. We'll talk about things, but yeah, like it's been so cool seeing the different teams, the different interaction between the teams and within the teams. But let's talk about community for a second. And I've had the blessing of knowing you guys as fellow Unbounders, as friends for a minute. Within the Unbound community. How did you guys get started with Unbound? How did you guys hear about it? What was your degree and process of going through either college through Unbound or even just the community within Unbound? Lydia, let's start with you.
All right. Yeah. So I heard about Unbound from a friend who was in the program. That was back in the spring of 2019. And I signed up and jumped right into the community, went to Apex. Pretty soon after that, started leading study break calls, got involved with the Empower Call management team, and just really connected with the vision of Unbound, and the community really impacted my life in a lot of different ways. And then this past year, had the opportunity to become an ATL, which has been a great experience. So I've just transferred from the Unbound program into Liberty University's online. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at.
So, there we go. Very nice. And for the record, ATL, again, does stand for Ascend Team Leader. And we do mention that a lot. We're not talking about Atlanta in this case, even though we do travel a lot there. Just to make that clear, because I do remember when I first heard that myself, as someone on the Unbound team, was like, that threw me for a second. So anyways, Rachel, tell us about your experience.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this today. I think I probably heard about Unbound first in probably early high school, which is maybe end of middle school, which is going on about 10 years now. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, so I heard about it. I knew Unbound was sort of this out of the box, long distance way to do college of some sort. In high school, I was pretty skittish of doing anything beyond that, and kind of decided, like, I'll do Unbound because that way I don't have to take the SAT, I don't have to go to college, I don't have to move away from home, basically a whole long list of I don't have to. My parents wisely were like, that's not a good way to make a decision, Rachel, and kind of really pushed me to explore some other college options just to have other data points to compare it to. So I started pursuing other schools, Christian schools, and actually was looking at doing that. I had a roommate, I had a class schedule. I was ready to go to a school in Ohio, and then kind of just hit the brakes at the end of about like July of right after graduating. Like, I don't think I'm ready to do this right now, and I don't want to do it just because it's what's next. And so I took a gap year, and then during that year, asked a lot of questions, did some working, and ended up actually coming back to Unbound because of the opportunities it gave me. It allowed me to kind of continue some family and ministry opportunities and things God had put in my life. So it was really cool to be able to come back almost full circle, but this time because I had a list of dues instead of just a list of things I was doing. So yeah, I got my degree from Thomas Edison State University in liberal arts humanities. So think reading, writing, communication, English, leadership, all sort of mashed together. Yeah, I've been involved in different student leadership teams over the years. The past year or so, got to be involved as an event team leader, and that's been a really cool way post-graduation to still kind of be investing in this group of people. So.
Yeah, totally. And Jordan, you have a fun story as well with kind of joining the community after your school experience. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I first heard about the Unbound back when it was still College Plus. My sister was doing it. She had heard about it from a local homeschool convention and so started doing it. She was one of the people who got their degree in 18 months. So a little different than me. Yeah, one of those. So I graduated high school. I took 2 years off. I worked on a horse ranch for 2 years. And then I started got involved with College Plus and started working on my degree. Worked on it for about a year and then dropped out of classes because I was at that point working full time for my dad at the business that my family owns. And I just didn't have time to take classes on top of all the classes I have to do for insurance and all the work I have at the office. So dropped out of there after about a year. And then it was probably about a year and a half, 2 years later, Apex 2018, that I first got involved in the community. Kind of wanted a vacation from work, and Apex was right there. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to go. There's going to be people there. It's going to be fun. Definitely one of the best decisions I made. Yeah, so I've been involved in the community fairly regularly since then. And last fall, Victoria reached out to me and asked me if I would be an ATL. Thought about it for a while and decided to go ahead and go for it. So yeah, that's why I'm here.
Glad you made that decision to come to Apex. I have a distinct memory of meeting you and being like, that is a cool dude. I want to talk to that guy more. And we hung out in our dorm room. It was just like super random. We just like talked football and stuff. But so let's talk about being a team leader for a second. It's really cool how we all have kind of come from our various connections and backgrounds within Unbound to being a team leader. But what does that mean? So let's start with what is an Ascend team and what is your role as team leader? So Rachel, can you tell us a little bit about that? And then Lydia, Jordan, if you guys have thoughts, you can totally chime in later.
Sure. So an Ascend team is basically the group of students you get assigned to, plugged into when you enroll in Ascend. It's usually about 8 to 10 students max, small groups such that you can kind of learn people, have names, and you guys would meet once a month as a team and just touch base on school, on life, on what you're learning, just provide some accountability and encouragement, because when you're doing a degree that's sort of a online hybrid, it can just be really helpful to have someone else who's like, yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm taking the same classes as you. How can we, do this together, or compare notes, or laugh about problems that we had together? So yeah, that's what an Ascend team is for. And then a team leader, I guess I'll just throw out a couple things I do and you guys can add to that. Ascend team leader, your job is to kind of be the point person for your team. You usually are a little bit further down the road, have more experience, kind of where this Ascend thing is going. most of the time. And
yeah,
right?
Doesn't always work out like that, but we try.
Right? We try at least to act like we do, or we know the people who actually do know. Shout out to Victoria for answering lots and lots of questions. So yeah, our job is mostly to help keep students on track. So this is the classes you said you're going to take. How are those going? Anything, that would be helpful, to advocate for students if they're coming like, I keep running into this problem. Who can fix this? To say like, hey, I know who to talk to, or I'll ask this person about it and see if they can get in touch with you. Advocating for them and just kind of providing a place to belong and connect. Like, here's your team, get to know one another, and kind of creating some of that community, or at least kind of jumpstarting that. What else would you guys add?
I think you summed it up very well. Yeah, just pretty much like kind of a coach, mentor type role. The staff is very involved in the students' lives, but I mean, they can't be everywhere all at once. So, having the setup with teams and team leaders kind of makes it a little bit more personal, where they have someone to kind of help direct them and get to know them on a more personal basis.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things that we do. And one of the parts that I enjoy the most is just having the personal interaction with them and getting to know each one of the students. Because, yeah, our teams aren't very big, which is designed like that on purpose. That way we can have the personal interactions and be able to get to know them. And that way they are comfortable coming to you, talking to you, saying, hey, I've got a problem. Hey, I need help. Hey, this is going on. I mean, lots of times we do more than just school, catching up with them. There's lots of times that they'll be talking about life and asking for advice on things. And so it's definitely more than just a school thing. It's more of a life coach.
Yeah, totally. On that note, that's kind of a perfect segue of building relationships. What has been a fun part of being an ATL and interacting with students? Another question I would throw in there, it would be being Unbound. Was there a particular part of whether our Unbound community culture or something that was interesting to share with your students, being an Unbounder yourself? How is it like that, doing that whole life coach part and passing on knowledge, if you will?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing a lot of students, especially at the start of the year, they're asking is, how do I balance everything? And that's always going to be dependent on each person. Just getting to know the students, getting to know what their life is like, and then helping them figure out, okay, do you need to cut back this a little bit in order to be able to spend more time doing this class, because it's harder for you to do that class. I know that's one thing for me that I have to work on constantly, is making sure time management is done well. And I know at the start of the school year, you're just starting college classes and you're doing them online. It can be very hard to set up a schedule for yourself and stick to that schedule. So definitely, I know what it's like. I've been there. I'm still there.
Yeah. Lydia, how about you?
Yeah. As far as a fun part, I mean, Jordan kind of already beat me to it. Just getting to interact with the students, and getting to know them and figuring out, just watching them grow and connect and interact with the material. I think some ways that I have been able to kind of help incorporate some of the things that I've learned through being a part of Unbound for a while. Some things that come to mind is just kind of that attitude of always leaning forward and asking questions, not being afraid to ask good questions and push back on things, explore different options, kind of just having, a more open mindset towards life. And a recent highlight was definitely base camp. And again, just watching the students interact, not just with the material, but also with each other, and make those good connections. So fun to see.
Can I just say how much fun the Dr. Seuss books doing those skits were? I think that was definitely one of the highlights from base camp. For those of you who are listening and weren't there, what we had to do is each team was split up into their teams, and we had to take a Dr. Seuss book and we had to do a dramatic acting / reading of it. Let's just say some of the teams did a very, very good job.
So much creativity.
And I love that about the teams, because you bring people together. Unbounders kind of have that. You let them loose and let them do their own things. And then Rachel, you were saying?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I'm never gonna read some of those Dr. Seuss books the same way again. Now, like the base camp as well will come to mind for those.
The mental pictures were pasted.
Oh yeah, exactly. A quick shout out to the YouTube channel. As of this episode releasing, there will be the Basecamp vlog on the YouTube channel. So if you want to see what we're talking about, head over there. Check out the video. You'll definitely see clips of all that going on. And if you are an Unbound student and you want to watch some of the skits, hit me up. So we got you. But yes, that is super fun. Kind of bring people together. But as you mentioned, Jordan, there's very much the challenges as well, right? Of balancing a schedule and working things out. School and life and work all put together, the whole season of life that we all deal with as Unbounders is not easy. So what have been some of the challenges you've seen as an ATL? Yeah, just leading your students and all that. And Rachel, let's start with you this time.
Challenges that come to mind for me is just some of it's just learning your team. Because for some people, they've done online courses before, it's familiar territory. Other people, this is new territory and there's more of a learning curve, and it just takes longer for them to kind of figure out how to log in, how to find assignments, how to do things, getting used to some of the communication platforms and where to find things. And so there's a little bit of a challenge there as a leader, trying to figure out who's where, who needs help, and what's the best way to do that. Yeah, and then I think some of it too is just, especially, you mentioned Jordan, like at the beginning, there is usually once people get into the semester, they start getting into their kind of groove. At the beginning, everyone's still just kind of trying to figure out what am I doing this school year? What's it going to look like for me? And so, watching students wrestle with different parts of it is hard when you care about them and you're watching them kind of like run into walls here, or really like struggle with time management or those things, and trying to figure out what's the best way, because like you want to see them succeed. Yeah, and I think then just figuring out too how to balance logistics and relationship as a team leader, because on one hand your role is to be the person who's on the ground with them, making sure like, hey, are you on track? But at the same time, your goal is not just to be like some sort of secretary checking off a bunch of boxes or not checking off boxes. There to like support them, and there's more relationship there, like you guys talked about. So I think those are some of the struggles.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Lydia or Jordan?
I mean, interacting with the students is a highlight, but then on the flip side, I mean, that does also come with a lot of challenges. So a lot of them, Rachel mentioned, just figuring out how to best help them. But I think also too, a lot of them are coming to Unbound for the very first time, and it's kind of this new way of doing things, almost like this new philosophy that they're learning. We're supposed to ask questions, not just look for all the answers. Question-based mindset, quickly and effectively mastering complicated information. I was expecting better courses than this, and realizing that, these courses are actually a way for me to learn how to master information, because that's something I'm going to be doing all my life, and how this applies to life after school, having more of an experience-based mindset than an academics-based mindset in approaching school. So kind of, just helping them come to understand all those things. It's very rewarding, but of course it comes with its challenges as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Rachel and Lydia have said. I would probably add too, like, one of the challenges that I had at the start of the year is learning how to find the answers that they're asking me, and not just going and asking Victoria or Olivia or Hannah. Great resources and everything, but actually learning how to go online. Hey, they're supposed to be taking this class and they're falling behind in it. How to see that, how to then follow up with them. Hey, I noticed you're falling behind in this, or you're not doing quite as well. What's going on? You want to talk about it? I'm here. Just let me know. And so that's just learning how to do that, and then just staying on top of that too. It's had its challenges, but it also can be really rewarding too, because then it does create that extra level of trust and relationship between you and the student, because they know that, hey, they've got my back. If something goes wrong, I can trust them.
Yeah, I was even thinking about the whole aspect of, as you were saying, Lydia, growing from a different perspective. And honestly, a lot of the life skills and principles that we talk about in Unbound can be very just counter what we're so used to. So, for example, even like failure and making sure that we're learning from it and looking at it from a learning perspective instead of just being fearful of it. Even today, I was looking at it and thinking, wow, okay, I was facing a situation. It felt like a failure or whatever, but I had to like stop myself and say, huh, okay, I need to like look at this differently. And I can imagine growing in that and then helping the new classes, the freshmen's, the year ones coming in, and growing in that can be very interesting.
Oh, I mean, totally. So many of those things are like things that they're just things that you're still learning too. So, like you said, the time management or the dealing with failure or some of those stuff. It's like maybe I'm the team leader, but that doesn't mean I have this down. And so, you have to like re-ask yourself the same questions every time someone asks you.
Yeah. I know one thing Jonathan's always talking about is being extraordinary at the ordinary things. You can't do that unless you're failing too, because if you're not failing, I don't think you're pushing yourself as hard as you should. You have to push yourself outside of your comfort zone in order to grow lots of times. And lots of times that can come with failure. And is it scary? Yeah, it is. But is it good? Yeah, it is.
100%. You summed that up so well. That summed up everything I said perfectly. So here's a question that I actually am genuinely excited to just discuss with you guys. And that is going off of what we just said, how the beauty of growing and learning with Unbound is that we know learning is ongoing and it's very much a process. All of us, we're Unbound students ourselves, are now within community or alumni, and this is an episode of Unbound Pursuits, which means we talk with professionals with the different fields that we work in. Besides working as ATLs for you guys, you all have you're all young professionals and have your own work and careers and things like that. And so, yeah, what has it been like balancing the work and life aspect as well as being a team leader? And first off, I would ask, has being a team leader in any way helped yourself grow and continue to learn transferable skills, right? That you get in general, or even maybe certain skills that you use both as an ATL and also in your career path? And has there been instances where, what you do in your professional life has been able to influence or even transfer over to what you do as an ATL?
One thing that comes to mind is time management, and that was already mentioned. Not only are we helping our students learn time management, but we're having to put that into practice ourselves. And anytime that you have a responsibility with deadlines and students you're supposed to be checking in on and whatnot, I mean, that helps you with your own time management skills. Personally, in my own life, and in my hopefully someday professional life, I'm a psychology major with a focus in Christian counseling, and kind of counseling and coaching are some of my career goals. And so this really has been super beneficial just in kind of some hands-on practice, getting to work with students, coach them, kind of help, guide and mentor them. And the training, we go through a leadership and coaching training as ATLs, and just a lot of the things I've been learning in that as well, with active listening, direct communication, how to prioritize, just anything in life. All of those have just been super helpful, I think, for really any direction that I'm going to go in life. But particularly for me, it's been super exciting to see how I can use those skills in the future. And then one other thing, we connect with our students and we want what's best for them. But then realizing that, hey, I can't control their lives. I can't make decisions for them. And so I feel like that's just really practical in any area of life, just learning to let go and let God. Yeah, kind of just learn that balance of giving advice and yet helping them to be able to make their own decisions, which, I mean, that's a large part of what coaching is anyways. So yeah, those are a few thoughts I've had.
Rachel, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think along the super practical element, just communication skills is one that stands out. Just having to communicate weekly, regularly with students, realizing too, especially when you're dealing with a remote team, communication is so important to building trust. Like the way you build trust is like when you ask me a question, I respond within like 24 hours if I can possibly help it, kind of thing, right? And answering it and hearing it like, hey, do you need to call and talk about this? Things like that. Knowing what kind of communication fits what kind of question. Is this a messaging over Slack question or is this a phone call question? Yeah, I think those have been really helpful to growing with Ascend, and it totally transfers over to work too, even when you work with an in-person team. Like those skills are still really important. I think that was the main one that came to mind.
Jordan, how about for you?
I think one of the ways that I'm working on growing in is listening. I know during us ATLs, we'll have our leadership training meetings once a month. And during one of the trainings, we talked about there's like 3 different kinds of listening that you can do. One's more passive, one's semi-active, and then one is like actively listening to who's in front of you and like putting yourself in their shoes. And I know for me, in my job, I'm an insurance agent, so lots of times I meet with clients, talking with clients. And so actively listening, making sure I understand where they're coming from, watching their body language when they're in meeting with me, and like, okay, they're talking about something that's really important to them. I need to make sure I'm actively listening right now to what they're saying. Whereas, this meeting's going on so long, like I just want them to leave now. It's just like, no, they're here. Time is important to them. Time's important to me. If this wasn't important, we wouldn't be talking right now. So just making sure that I'm constantly being aware of what's going on around me and that I'm listening to who I'm talking to. I think that's one of the biggest things.
100%. I just want to say, especially again, really appreciate all that you guys do, as well as, really all the team leaders, the many others who weren't able to be on this podcast episode, but seeing how you guys are able to not only lead and coach, but then invest so much in the students' lives, as well as work within your own jobs. And some of you guys are students, some of you guys are working on, again, just work and so many other different things. Yes, it's a lot and huge amount of respect. So thank you so much for all that you guys put in. And it's super cool to hear, as you all said, how this has helped you continue to grow yourselves. So that being said, let's go around. I wanted to ask you guys, if you had 60 seconds to say anything to your students, to your team, something as a older unbounder, or what, whatever, as a young professional that you wanted to pass on to your students, what would you say to them?
I think the biggest thing to remember in life is that every time you take a step forward, you push yourself, like we talked about a little bit ago, there's going to be failures in the life. There's going to be things that you regret. And you have to make sure that you aren't constantly looking back at those. You want to learn from them and make sure that you don't waste those failures, but you also don't want to regret those failures because they happen for a reason. I think it was Victoria down at base camp. She was talking about every little thing in our life has made us into who we are now. And I think that's so true. So every time you make a decision, it's shaping you. Every single little decision is shaping you. So make sure that your focus is always on Christ and following him, and just keep pushing ahead.
What Jordan said is really good. So that's great advice there. Maybe if I was going to do kind of a different tack, I'd just go with relationships are really important. So, you're at a phase of life when you're kind of doing college in this young adult season where your relationships are changing up a lot. Who was your friends in high school is kind of moving and transitioning a lot. So family and friendships and your relationship with God, they take time, but it is always worth it. I don't think I've ever had a situation where reaching out to a friend, having a conversation with a sibling, or, praying more was ever like a waste of time. Invest in those things. The reason I'm sitting here on this call is because of relationships I built with people in this community. So invest in those. Don't let school get in the way of relationships.
I know right now can kind of seem, it's so easy to zoom on the details and you're asking a lot of questions like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing in life? Am I going for the right major? Should I even be doing college? All these questions that you have are trying to figure out, okay, where am I supposed to be in life? I would say don't lose sight of the bigger picture. If you do nothing else in life, lean into Jesus, learn to know him more, and let that knowledge of him change you and the way you live your life. Like Rachel said, lean into community. Don't forget relationships. Yes, strive for those goals and use the gifts and talents that God has given you with excellence, but don't lose sight of that big picture of what really matters. And then stay humble. Be the first to admit you're wrong and that you need help. It takes humility to be able to live by God's grace and the grace of others instead of your own efforts. There's enough grace to go around. So let go of your fear, take a chance, and just live.
Once again, I genuinely want to thank you guys for all that you've invested. I know that it's, again, one thing I appreciate so much about being part of this community is the generational aspect where we've had several classes over the years, seeing how there have been Unbounders before us who have invested in us, in myself, and seeing how you guys are investing in the new classes, year 1, year 2, and eventually year 3 is so cool to see. So thank you. Shout out to you guys as well as Caleb and Rebecca and all the other leaders. What you guys do is very appreciated. Yeah, I also wanted just to say it's really cool to see how we continue to grow. Yeah, I kind of consider all of us roughly the same class. Right? Maybe Rachel, you're a bit before me, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's been really, really cool to see how, you guys have invested in me so much. And it's, something that's really cool to see how growth continues to happen, even with all the new generations.
Yeah. Can I just second what Rachel and Lydia were just talking about with relationships? I know it was actually Monday night. I was able to catch up with another Unbound person, and we hadn't talked in over a year, and we talked for 2 hours straight. And
isn't that the best?
It is. Because it's so hard lots of times nowadays to find relationships like that, to find people like that who will just sit down and have a conversation with you. And investing in those kind of relationships, you will never regret it.
Very much second that as well. On that note, thank you guys for being on the show and for sharing your story and all that. And if you have, for those of you guys listening, if you have any questions about the Ascend class, be sure to message us. But besides that, again, thank you guys, and we'll see you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on.
Yes, relationships, I would very much second that. And David, I would say, I don't know about you, but certainly for me, I have been part of the Unbound community for so long because of relationships, and am sitting here because I've been able to build up friendships and connections through Unbound and all those different things. So yeah, I think if anything, talking with the leaders and whatnot, it was a huge takeaway to see how learning is about building relationships, building teams, and we're very grateful for what our Ascend team leaders do within our community.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that we just talked about at one of our events, Base Camp, is the fact that you can learn and you can do all sorts of things in your life, but all of that needs to lead to and inform your relationships and the people that you spend time serving around and serving with. And so, yeah, absolutely. That is the core of our programs here at Unbound. And so if you found the what the Ascend team leaders had to say about Ascend to be interesting and you want to learn more about it, then you would absolutely do yourself a favor to go and visit our website. It is beunbound.us/ascend. If you want to check out the Ascend program, right now is a fantastic time to check it out, particularly because we have a very, very good early bird special happening as of right now. And in addition to that, one of our other courses that touches on a lot of the concepts that the team leaders talked about here is our Navigate course, where it's designed to help young adults to help them ask the right questions and find life purpose in a stress-free way. And so we will be having a summer course for that, actually, for the first time ever, coming up very soon. So if you want to visit beunbound.us/navigate, you can learn more about that course.
Right along with resources, we also mentioned the YouTube channel. If you're interested in seeing more of what Unbound life is like and just fun videos from communities, Unbound stories, go check out the YouTube channel. That's Be Unbound on YouTube. So you can just go to YouTube, search up Be Unbound.
So thank you, as always, for joining us for this episode of the Be Unbound podcast. Please join us next week for an episode of Unbound Conversations. But until then, thank you for listening, and as always, be unbound.